to 89.9 Garden City Radio, the radio station with style and groove and style. This is Saving the Niger Delta with Ann Kilbricks. Today is Wednesday. It's the 4th of December 2019, and we have 21. If we're doing countdown to Christmas, we have 21 more days to go before Christmas. And I hope you're not caught up in traffic like I was caught up in traffic slightly. That's why we're slightly behind. Apart from that, I hope it turns out to be a wonderful day for every one of us. Right. In my attempt to catch up with the little time that we have lost, today we will be looking at a few things, but let us start with the issue of the probing of NDDC, the Niger Delta Development Commission. Now, the call to probe the NDDC is a welcome call, but it's not new and it's not strange. It is not new in the sense that the call to probe the NDDC has been a call that has been ongoing. I know that personally for decades, at least in the past 10 years, I have consistently called for the probe of the Niger Delta Commission and every other commission, actually, that is supposed to do things for the betterment of the Niger Delta people, for the betterment of the region, whether no matter the level where it is at. So it is not new, and the call to probe is not actually a call that should stop at just the NDDC. In my opinion, the Niger Delta, the Ministry of the Niger Delta, Amnesty, NNPC, the budget system, CBN, how they release forex to people who trade on the with forex on the black market, but recognize the black market. So quite honestly, even the government, the system, the way the government is run, the way that NNPC is run, the fact that the government itself does not even know how many barrels of oil is lifted from the Niger Delta every single day. The government is not in a position to tell us to the barrel really how much oil is lifted, and to the capacity how much gas is lifted from the wealth of the Niger Delta people. So probing should not stop with the Niger Delta Development Commission. It should go on so that we find an answer, we find a solution to the issues of justice and equity, and to the development of the Niger Delta region and the way the government, the federal government, is run. So this is something that we must call for. Now, having said that, I have heard so many arguments, or rather, a lot of groups have emerged over the past few months since the official call, or since the governors joined the call for the probing of NDDC. This call is coming because politics and politicians, since the setup of NDDC, from the Obasanjo who set it up till today, the NDDC have been gradually turned into a political money-making machine. And so when people are appointed to serve in the NDDC, they are done according to the states. They are done according to whose turn it is next out of the 9 oil-producing states. And so it's either we're going to keep that formula and continue in that manner, or we will find ourselves in the situation where we have found ourselves today. When this government first came on board, this government kicked off this by tampering with the way that the appointments were made, i.e. by setting up an acting, what I will call an acting board. If we remember, when the MD the MD left, and someone from Rivers State was made acting MD. And so what we're going through today in terms of the arguments that is coming from different camps, and it is about political interest, and it should not be. It is so unfair when our politicians allow the political structure from Abuja to determine for us what should be in our interest. And so this confusion started in 2015, and it has continued till now. When this government came on board, I believe it was even before that the argument started coming up whether the NDDC should come under the Ministry of Niger Delta or not. Now, NDDC is an agency that was set up, as we all know. It is not a developmental agency. The NDDC is an intervention agency. And because of the thinking of the people who set it up and how they are going to allocate budget to it and still take the majority of the budget back, either into their pockets, personal pockets, or political pockets, we now find ourselves in a situation where we are forgetting that the NDDC is not a development agency, one, and that the NDDC itself is not a Niger Delta picture issue. It is oil-producing states that make up the NDDC, and therefore you cannot be in two geopolitical zones at the same time. You cannot be in the southwest and be part of Niger Delta. You cannot be in the southeast and be part of Niger Delta, which is in itself a geopolitical zone, which is the South-South geopolitical zone of 6 states, and also be a political zone, a political Niger Delta. There is nothing like a political Niger Delta. So these are some of the facts and realities that we have to face as a people in the Niger Delta. We should look at the truth and the facts and insist that these truths and facts are allowed to stand. That's one. Two, the Niger Delta people must stand and take responsibility for the failure of the development of the Niger Delta. To a very large extent, the failure has stretched over 50 years. But we as a people, since 1999, have really not done anything as a people, nor have we done what is right as the people who are involved in politics to do what is truly right for the Niger Delta states, the 6 Niger Delta states, not the political Niger Delta states. The NDDC is a gathering of oil producing states. Now, when the argument came up whether NDDC should now come under the Ministry of Niger Delta. I was in no doubt whatsoever that, first of all, it shouldn't make any difference whether NDDC stayed with the secretary to government, whether it stayed in the living room of somebody, or whether it came under the Ministry of Niger Delta. What is important and must always remain important is NDDC achieving what it was set up to achieve. This should be the argument of the ordinary man to understand. This should be what the politicians should be projecting, and this is what you and I, who discuss it and argue for it one way or the other, should understand. The fact that the NDDC over the past 5 years have been seen by certain politicians as something that they personally must control is a desire to control what is in the interest of the whole people of the oil producing states, and one person taking charge of it because he is seen as the leader of a particular political party at any one given time. So if we today find ourselves where we have groups of Niger Delta youths of different political parties, of different ethnic nationalities of the Niger Delta and of the other oil producing states, getting up and making different various statements under the names of all kinds of names, I think that we, the people who are prepared to show our faces and show who we are, should be able to say, no, these things you're doing and saying is not in the interest of the region. If the federal government, if the president have already set up, constituted a board for the NDDC, the argument, in my opinion, should be whether the president have actually followed the due process of NDDC. That is to say that, did the president pick an MD, appoint an MD for Niger Delta Development Commission that should have been from a particular state? Whose state, what state, which state was it the turn? Was it her turn to produce the MD? That should be the question. If, for instance, the state, in terms of its rotation, which was what the oil producing states agreed on in the way that they are going to be appointed, if it is, for instance, the turn of Edo State, for instance, I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it is not, I'm saying if it is, for instance, for Edo State to produce the MD, it is up to Edo State if they choose to bring somebody from Edo State who is or is not from oil producing area of Edo State. That is their business. It is not the business of River State, it's not the business of Delta State. It's the business of Edo State. And the president should have found out, if he doesn't want anybody to tell him whom to choose, he should have done his research and located a person from Edo State, from any part of Edo State, that he wants to appoint as the MD. Now, whether he should involve Edo politicians or Edo people will be up to the Edo people or any other person that the appointment is going to be made from their state to decide how they think the president should go about choosing somebody from their state. Because this will, if you do it that way, it will justify the feelings of people that they are part of the process. I don't like to use the word carried along, that they are part of claims, that they have vetted them, they have looked at them, and they have approved it. My question is, how did Senator Akpabio, the Ministry of Niger Delta, get to choose an interim 3-man committee above the president? Now, we have seen the letter that is circulating that had given Akpabio the authority and the right to go ahead and constitute this 3-man interim committee that is supposed to sit and let the probe of the NDDC commence. Now, if the president has on the left hand now, they should tell the president that this the crisis that is in NDDC today and the crisis that has raged in the Niger Delta between youth groups and between states is the president's fault. The president should, in 24 hours, and he has the capacity, if he wants to say, swear in the board that I have constituted and step down the 3-man committee that I have approved, because he approved it. Akpabio would not be able. How can Akpabio get up and set up a 3-man committee without the president's approval? He can't do it. He cannot, even if he wants to do it, he cannot do it. The president has to approve it. And from what we are seeing, the president approved it. And so if the president approved it and also set up the committee, it is up to the president to step one down. Either the president wants the 3-man committee for whatever the reason to probe, to be there while the probe is going on, or the board that he has constituted should be told to go and take their positions, and that way the probe can commence. Now, the probe in itself, for me, if the probe is sincere, the probe should not be carried out by Nigeria. That is my opinion. The probe should not be carried out by Nigeria. The probe should be carried out by independent auditors that have no other interest but to do a good job that will be a reference point for them all over the world. And that way, they are not being, they will not be influenced by one politician or the other, or by one political party or the other. That the NDDC, because you see, the concern I have is that the people of the Niger Delta region, from the setup of NDDC till today, that have been in the management of NDDC, that have attempted to deliver, rightly or wrongly, whatever the NDDC is supposed to deliver, politically or otherwise. If the NDDC is rotten today, our people cannot say that they are not involved to an extent. Because how do you award a job to somebody, a human being, a Nigerian, or even a foreigner that has one head, and you pay him mobilization money and he does not deliver on the project that you have paid him for, and in frustration you cancel the contract, you do not get your money back, you re-award the same job to somebody else. The other money you have paid is a loss. A loss to who? A loss to Niger Delta people. And so this probing should not be a witch hunt. against a particular set of political appointees, because that's what they are political appointees, or a particular ethnic nationality, or a particular state, or a particular region even, because there are 3 geopolitical zones in the NDDC. The southwest is in the NDDC through Ondo, and the southeast is in the NDDC through Imo and Abia. And all the Niger Delta states, offshore or onshore, are in NDDC, are supposed to be in NDDC. But the same federal government, through its system, removes oil allocation that is coming from a particular state and gives the oil allocation to another state, while that state is still remaining physically in its original geographical position. I don't understand. How does that even work? How do you take oil well revenue that is situated in Cross River or Akwa Ibom and give it to somebody else, vice versa, or situated in River State and give it to somebody else, to another state next door to River State? These are decisions that are being made in Abuja level that is creating face-offs, anger, frustration between the states, between the oil producing states in the Niger Delta region. And who is the beneficiary is still the federal government. So this probing, it should be done. It should not be done secretly. This probing, as they are doing it, it must be done. It must be open. We must know the companies. What's the name of the companies? Who are the people that own the companies? Who are the directors of the companies that these contracts and these jobs have been allocated to over the years, over 20 years or 20 years of the creation of NDDC? And really and truly, there is absolutely, it doesn't matter what NDDC has put on ground for 20 years. I can justifiably say that even after seeing that, the NDDC itself has not, from the first MD to the one that is hanging today, that has not started work, have not done well for the Niger Delta people. And so this probe is absolutely necessary. But like I said, it should not be a justification against the Niger Delta people, because it's not everybody that was appointed to the board. Anybody that has been appointed to the board and cannot account for how they spent the money in projects that we cannot see as a people, I believe that the Niger Delta people should be given this information. But as I said, it should not just be the NDDC, but it's what we're talking about today is the fact that the NDDC board is not constituted. The NDDC has an interim 3-man committee board, and the NDDC, the Niger Delta people have nothing to show for it. Now, if the probe is carried out and it is done openly and genuinely, I personally believe that we will be very horrifiably, we will be surprised and horrified to find out the companies, who owns those companies, and whether they even qualify to have been allocated any job in NDDC. So basically, the call today from this program is that the president of Nigeria should, as a matter of justice, decide what he wants in NDDC. Does he want the board he has set up to be sworn in, or does he want the interim government? Because the two are created with his permission. He appointed the board. He also gave Senator Akpabio or the Minister Akpabio to go ahead and set up this interim board. And the people that have been set up are not, they were not picked outside of the sentiments of political party. It was not picked, they were not picked outside of the sentiments of the ruling party. They are picked within the sentiments of the ruling party, because these are well-known stalwarts and people that are in the ruling political party.